What will happen in Westworld Season 3, Episode 3, The Absence of Field? What can we learn from the trailer? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. I'll be covering Westworld Season 3 in full, so if you want episode breakdowns, explanations, live discussions and much more, please click the subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen and the bell icon. After last week's detour into the world of Maeve and continuing to see what Bernard is up to, it looks as though Episode 3 of Season 3 of Westworld will be focused back down on Dolores. We see two discrete storylines in the trailer, following on from what happened in Episode 1, and seemingly from earlier in time, shortly after Dolores arrived on the mainland. First up, we pick up on the action that follows on from Episode 1. There, you will remember, Dolores had got into a fight with Insight Security and ended up staggering into an underpass and collapsing into the arms of the passing Caleb, who was nearby because he'd been doing a bag drop for the very same meeting Dolores had been to. Caleb clearly won't know that she is a host at this point. In fact, the idea probably won't even be on his radar. We've seen lots of robots and intelligent machines in the real world of Season 3, but no hints of sentience, or hosts more generally. So when he sees quite how many times she's been shot, it makes sense for him to take her to a hospital, as if she were just a normal human. We see this here, with her apparently on some kind of hospital trolley with a ventilator mask over her face. Of course, when Dolores realises what's happening, she won't be happy. If she is admitted to a hospital, they will discover that she isn't human, and that would threaten the success of her entire mission. So she escapes using violence as per normal for her. Dolores will need to be repaired, though. These shots from the pre-season trailer seem to show Caleb helping her in that, and obviously learning about her true nature. As we've noted before, he does seem to be quite open-minded, with his implant switched off and happily eating his lunch with his robot co-worker, so although it will be a surprise for him to discover she isn't human, he will probably accept it quite readily. For Dolores, this will be the first time she has met a human that has helped her out of genuine, selfless care and concern. It will be an eye-opener for her, like when Maeve saw Lee Sizemore sacrifice himself for her simply because it was the right thing to do. In any event, the two of them will form some kind of bond. The pre-season trailers focused a lot on her telling him how they were similar, with Rehoboam and Insight running his life in the same way that Ford and Delos used to run hers. It's like he is in a cage, she says. And in this trailer, for Episode 3, we see the two of them walking and talking together. Their relationship, or whatever it is, has clearly reached quite a strong stage by the latter part of this episode, because Dolores is sharing her plans with him. And this is interesting, because it's the first time in Season 3 that she has told anyone what her plans actually are. Even Bernard admitted last episode that he didn't know whether she wanted to destroy humanity or subjugate it. Here, she tells Caleb that she wants to start a revolution. She's had one already, of course, inside Westworld, so is she now setting her sights on humanity revolting against their overlords? There certainly were a few shots in the pre-season trailers that look a bit like revolution. So that's the first storyline we see in the Episode 3 trailer. The second appears to be from shortly after Dolores arrived on the mainland. One of the first things she did was rebuild her own body, put herself in that, and then put another host into Charlotte Hale's body. We saw the Charlotte Hale host in Episode 1. She had been appointed acting chief executive of Delos and was starting to make some big decisions, like taking the company back into private hands and building more hosts. She's clearly doing a very important role in Dolores' master plan, but we didn't really get many hints as to who might be the host inside Charlotte. We will probably find out in Episode 3. In this trailer, we see them undergoing the understandable trauma of being brought back in the real world. Whoever they are will have died in some way in Westworld, and not only that, but Dolores has put them into someone else's body, and will task them with an important mission. Dolores seems to be gentle here, but still firm, telling this host who they need to pretend to be. There's no pretending that they have a choice in this. Dolores is in control, but this also gives us more clues about who this mystery host might be. This is a more tender soul than someone like Angela, for example. Dolores goes down on her knees to talk to them, talking in a soft tone and even using quite childlike words. And the host themselves looks worried, anxious, uncertain about who they are and what they need to do. I'll do a full video tomorrow on exactly who this might be in Charlotte Hale, because I think there really are only 2 or 3 possibilities. I suspect that this story in episode 3 will be seen predominantly from the eyes of the Charlotte Hale host. We'll see them from the moment they first waken in the real world, their culture shock at being in a different body, their uncertainty and fear at having to take on a new life and new responsibilities. This may well take us all the way up to where we saw her in episode 1. The biggest challenge, though, I suspect, will be the challenge on slotting into the wider aspects of Charlotte's life. We see here that she seems to be putting a small boy to bed, her child. The title of this episode is The Absence of Field. This is almost certainly a reference to the Mark Strand poem Keeping Things Whole, which starts, "In a field I am the absence of field." This is always the case. Wherever I am what is missing. How does this relate? Well, if you are searching for something and cannot find it, another way of finding it is by looking for that which is missing and seeing what is there in the absence. By which I mean that if you are, say, a supercomputer searching for Dolores but cannot find her because she's not human and therefore not a part of your system built on human coding, you could instead search for the absence of things in the world that ought to be there, because that's where she will be, like a ghost in the system. Or on a more personal level, will Charlotte's child realise something is wrong with their mother by the things that they do or the things that they don't do? The host inside Charlotte Hale is, in the terms of that poem, the absence of Charlotte Hale. They are where Charlotte Hale should be, but isn't. The same, of course, goes for any other hosts masquerading as real humans. So what else might we expect to see in this episode? There are a few possibilities. We could see the rest of Maeve's conversation with Serac, for example. He ended that rather abruptly in episode 2 by shutting down her motor functions, but we know from what he said then that he is planning on continuing the conversation. He wants her to go after Dolores, he just needs to work out the right way to frame this request. We could see Bernard and Stubbs return to the mainland and start their search for Liam Dempsey. As with last season, it seems as though Bernard's is the storyline that will link the others together. Right now, he is effectively searching for both Maeve and Dolores, and at some point, he'll probably find them. Finally, we are still waiting for the introduction of William this season, the Man in Black. This may happen this episode, or they may hold off for a bit more, but when we see him, he will be in a dark place. The reality of what has happened, his wife's suicide after discovering who he really was, killing his daughter as a result of his own paranoia, and the destruction of everything he had built over decades, will be weighing heavily on him. Perhaps he will finally have reached the bottom and be able to start climbing up towards some kind of redemption. If you'd like to discuss episode 3 just before it airs, please join me and Hax Dogma, as well as special guests each week, for my pre-show livestream at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a link in the description. If you'd like more Westworld Season 3 videos, please click on the link to the left of your screen. Or if you'd like to support In Deep Geek, or get access to some of the content I create exclusively for my patrons, please click on the link on the right of your screen. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you again soon.